What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and this is what I like to call my Technicolor Dreamcoat of Pokemon awesomeness, right? You all know I am completely committed to helping you and I keep our finger on the pulse of what is going on in the Pokemon collecting and investing hobby. And if you've been watching this channel at all for the last year, you know that I am a big believer that the best way to do that is to warehouse tons of data, to look for movements in the macro market, to understand trends and see what's going on. And this is what I do behind the scenes. Now, this is the top 20 singles cards for all of the sets in the Scarlet and Violet era, right? But I don't talk about it very much. I do a video every month on how Sun and Moon is moving, on how Sword and Shield is moving. I just did one on XY. The XY video was absolutely fire. XY is taking off. And in those videos, I talk about the booster box price movement and I talk about the top 20 singles card movement because, again, the whole idea is I want you and I to play chess when everybody else is playing checkers. So understanding how all these markets are moving in real time helps us do that. I do this for Scarlet and Violet too, but guess what? I don't talk about it because at this point I feel like it's kind of irrelevant, right? The era is too new, the sets are too new, everything's kind of working its way out, everything's going through that Pokemon pop and flop, right? Where the prices start off high as soon as a set drops, then as it continues to get ripped, prices keep coming down and down and down and down. But I still warehouse this every month because I think that when the next era comes out, this is going to be just such a cool data set for us to have. You know, we're talking 2-3 years from now. It is going to be really interesting because think about it, when we look at it then, we will have an understanding, we'll have a complete picture of Scarlet and Violet, how the whole era performs. So we'll be able to take some of those learnings and hopefully apply them to whatever the next era is. And also, we will be able to see how Sword and Shield performed when it was sunsetting while Scarlet and Violet was kicking off. Like, that's it. It's hard to look that far into the future, but I'm a long-term investor. So that's what I'm most excited about with this data set. However, as I've been warehousing it, as I've been collecting it every single month, Paldea Evolved has just been doing some really cool stuff, and I thought, okay, I've got to do some more research into this. And as I started digging, as I started looking at cards more closely, as I started to really get down to the brass tacks of some of what's happening in the Paldea Evolved set, I thought, this is too cool. Like, I've just got to do a video on it. I don't normally do videos on these newer sets, but what is going on is just so incredibly cool. I had to do it right now. Now, I will say this. Listen, as I said, we do all kinds of cool stuff. We do data trends and analysis. We're always trying to figure out what's going on in the Pokemon market. So if that gets you excited, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, listen, we put a ton of work into this, and if you appreciate it, give us a big old thumbs up. I got a small channel. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping me out. Now, what are some of the things I love about Paldea Evolved? So first off, the average of the top 20 cards in that set is second only to Pokemon 151. Now, Pokemon 151 is a beast all its own, right? I don't compare many things to Pokemon 151 because I don't know if there's any comparables. It's a specialty set, you know, it is just absolutely on fire, and it's going to be very fascinating to watch moving forward. So when you look at all the other sets, Paldea Evolved has the highest average of top 20 cards. The other thing that's really cool is, remember, this should be in the middle of the Pokemon pop and flop, right? Like, these cards should be crashing in price because Paldea Evolved is readily available. The cards are, you know, you can get booster packs super cheap. Booster box are still relatively cheap. So you would expect the singles card prices to be coming down accordingly, but they still have 5 cards over $20 and there's still 17 cards over $10. That is really cool. Now listen, the window of opportunity on Paldea Evolved is not closing anytime soon. I'm not doing this video saying, hey, you got to rush out and buy all the Paldea Evolved booster boxes because they're not going to be available. This is going to be a great long-term investment. I do believe it's going to be a great long-term investment, but I don't think anybody needs to freak out, right? There is going to be more Paldea Evolved. There's going to be plenty of it for the long run, but understanding what is going on in this set right now can help us play chess when everybody else is playing checkers. So I thought that was really cool to talk about. Now, the one thing that got me the most excited, and here I'm going to be honest with you, this Magikarp card is what got me the most excited, and this is the card that caused this whole video to happen because as I started to dig deeper and deeper into this card, I started to understand that, listen, even though this is the second most expensive card in the set, right? Everybody knows that at least for now, the Iono is the most expensive card. But look at the price graph on this one. Spoiler alert, when we look at the Iono on the next slide, the price graph looks totally different. This card has been on a steady upward in the right trajectory ever since the set came out, and you just don't typically see that with ultra-modern sets like this. The other thing that was really big, so if you look down below right there, that is the data straight from PSA, and that is the total number of cards that have been sent to PSA. So there has been 2,235 of these Magikarp cards that have been sent to PSA, and guess what? Only 486 of them have been awarded a PSA 10 gem mint. That is a 21.7% gem rate for this card. The sample size is 2,200. That sample size is big enough. Like, yes, there will be more PSA 10s. Yes, there will be more that's submitted. Maybe the gem rate will change, but I promise you the gem rate is not going to fundamentally change. This isn't going to suddenly jump up into a 50% gem rate card. This thing is going to be a sub 30% gem rate, and that is so freaking excited for the long-term price appreciation of this, at least in a PSA 10 case and certainly in a raw card as well. Now, we did videos not too long ago on the Sword and Shield chase cards and the Sun and Moon chase cards. We looked at them in the PSA 10, we looked at their population just like we're looking at here, and we looked at the gem rate, right? The lowest Sword and Shield, so the lowest Sword and Shield gem rate chase card was the Giratina from Lost Origin at 48%. Now the lowest in Sun and Moon was that Rainbow Zard from Burning Shadows, and that was at 17%. But remember, this is going to have a lower gem rate than any of the big chase cards in Sword and Shield era, right? And it is going to be nipping at the heels of the lowest gem rate from Sun and Moon. That's crazy. Like, that is incredibly powerful to understand now. These PSA 10s are selling for over $500 right now, as they rightfully should. This is going to be an incredibly important card to the Scarlet and Violet era. I'm calling it right now. Remember, the internet is forever. We'll look back in 6 months or a year and see if I was right. But all of these signs are pointing to me that this card is going to be a very, very special one, and it comes from this set. Now, I did talk about the Iono, and what I love about the Iono is I think this is a very solid number 2. I think you're great sets. You know, you have great sets that have really big chase cards, but all sets benefit from having a really solid number 2. And I think this card can do that. Iono is a wildly popular supporter trainer, right? Like the artwork is absolute fire. The other thing that I love about this, so this version in Clayburst, in the Japanese version, right, in PSA 10s, they are selling for over $1,000. I saw multiple that were over $1,100, $1,200 that were being sold recently. And that you might say, hey, that doesn't matter. That doesn't transpose over into the English card market. But in my mind, it really does, right? Like, I think that just like English collectors are out there collecting Japanese, there are going to be some Japanese collectors out there who want to have this from Clayburst in a PSA 10. They're going to want to have this in the English version in a PSA 10 as well. And I just think it adds a little extra aura to this card. Now, if you look at the price graph, yes, it's been coming down. It's been falling like a rock. That is what we expect, but there's also so many Ionos out there right now. Like, it seems like every set that comes out has a new Iono card in it, right? And then there's a Milk Crate that's coming out with the Iono stamp promos. Like, it really is Iono overload right now. So I think that once all the dust settles, again, we're talking years down the road, there's going to be plenty more of these that come out. But I think once everything settles further down the road, this is going to be amazing number 2 chase card. Now, you know I love looking at gem rates. We talked about that. Really cool to see that, again, 4,500 of these have already been sent to PSA. Again, big enough sample size for us to say that the gem rate is pretty darn close to accurate. And this gem rate is at 47.1%, right in line with that Giratina. And that Giratina had the lowest gem rate out of all the chase cards from the Sword and Shield era. So this card is not going to be an easy grader. Yes, there's going to be more PSA 10s. There's already 2,100 right now. It'll probably end up, I don't know, in the 5,000-6,000 range. We'll just have to see. There is going to be more of them. But again, I'm telling you right now, that gem rate is incredibly important to see how this card moves moving forward. And I love to see that it is already in line with the lowest of the low from the Sword and Shield era. So the next thing, we've talked about the 1 card. We've talked about the 2 cards. For me, I always like seeing number 3 and 4, right? The top 5, I talk about that a lot on this channel. The top 5 are very, very important to me. So right now, these are the top 10 cards from Paldea Evolved in terms of price. We've already talked about 1. We've already talked about 2. Listen, no offense to Tinkaton, no offense to Super Rod, no offense to Boss's Orders, no offense to the regular Iono, right? Like, I just don't think that they're going to be able to I don't know, I don't think they're going to be able to buoy the set moving forward, but that leaves us with some pretty freaking cool cards right here. You got Chin Pao right there, you got Chi-Yu, you got Tyranitar, you got Raichu. Like, when I think about those, this is going to be a pretty epic 1 through 5 set, even if none of these other cards end up coming to the top, right? Even if these other cards that I've got the blue circle with a line through it over, even if they all end up falling through, I think these 4 cards do have the opportunity to do really well. These are some just awesome pieces of art. And the other thing that got me really excited and really surprised was that Tyranitar. I've been talking about how hard of a grader Paldea Evolved is, and I really had no idea. So when I pulled the same data for the Tyranitar that I pulled for the Iono, that I pulled for the Magikarp, only 886 of those Tyranitars have been sent to PSA. So a really small sample size, not enough for me to say it's statistically relevant yet. Plus, I don't know if a ton of people are sending those Tyranitars, and although after looking at the prices, if you have one, you absolutely should be. Out of the 886 that have been sent, only 150 ended up in PSA 10 holders. 17%, 16.9% of all of those Tyrannotars that have been sent in ended up in a PSA 10 holder, which is ridiculously low. And then I thought, if it's that low, I got to see what it's selling for. PSA 10s of this $17 card are selling for almost $200 right now. Why? Because the population is so low. Why? Because it's such a hard grader. Just incredible numbers here that we haven't seen in a long term from a grading perspective. Now, the Raichu right there, again, only 628 have been sent through. But guess what? Out of the 628, only 109, 17.4% have ended up in a Gem Mint 10 container, and they are selling for $300. Yes, it's selling for $300. This is amazing. This is cool. These are the reasons why I love Paldea Evolved so much, and these are one of the reasons that I wanted to get this in front of you. Now, the other ones right there have much higher gem rates, right? 62.4% and 51.5%. So gem rate doesn't always translate into long-term price appreciation, but I will tell you this. I love the fact that these cards seem to have a really low gem rate compared to a lot of the peers we've been looking at as of late, and I think these cards are going to perform really well. And I think this is just, nobody knows what the future will hold, but I think this is really exciting stuff for Paldea Evolved. Now, we got to look at the booster box, right? Of course. What are we saying? Here's what I want to say. Booster box dropped all the way down. Then it popped up a little bit. Now it's kind of leveled off in the low $100 range, $105. There's going to be a reprint of this. I feel like. I could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe they'll never reprint it. But Pokemon has a very strong track record of reprinting boxes. And this is coming up on the 1-year mark here in a couple months. I'm not concerned. I don't want anybody rushing out to buy Paldea Evolved because they think, oh my God, I got to get my hands on all these hard grading cards and this is going to be a great set in the future. You don't have to do that right now. I think we're going to have plenty of opportunities to buy this. But what's interesting to me, and I think this is incredibly important, is, I have heard a lot of people with wholesale licenses have said that their allocation from their distributors is smaller, and that's because Pokemon is doing what they should do. They're printing to demand, right? There's no point in Pokemon printing 1 million boxes if there's only 500,000 open arms waiting for it. And we all know Lorcana's got a share of wallet. We all know One Piece has a share of wallet. Like, a lot of people are focusing on Sword and Shield right now. So I think a lot of these Scarlet and Violet boxes are kind of sitting on the wayside. So I'm not saying it's going to be short printed. I am saying that there's going to be more that come out, but what I am saying is the size of the reprint will matter in the future. I always say this, to be a great investor and collector, you've got to look to the future, right? Nobody cares about what's going on right now. You care about what's going to be going on 3 to 5 years from now. Is there going to be demand for this product 3 to 5 years from now? Well, if those cards remain to be hard graders and if those cards remain to be super popular, then I really think there will be a lot of demand. So it's going to be interesting. Always remember, lower demand now, smaller reprint, higher demand later, investor delight. I am incredibly, incredibly excited about Paldea Evolved, which is nice because I've needed a set in Scarlet and Violet outside of 151 to get excited about, and this one is it. I've got some more videos that I'm going to be doing here soon around some of the Scarlet and Violet trends because I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to get a little excited. So listen, if you made it to the end and you enjoyed the content, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below, and as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I hope you have an epic one, and I'll talk to you later. See you, everybody. Bye.